All right, so in today's video, we're going to take a look at Nvidia. This stock just had its earnings release, so we're going to take a quick peek at the chart, what's going on. And, after these earnings announcements, there's always a lot of interesting things to digest. Now, one thing to point out and take a look at is this is one of the few stocks that's up today, because today we are having a pretty significant down day. Even AMD down 7%. 7% is quite a lot for a single day move. In retrospect, Intel also down, Broadcom and QCOM, they're all down quite a bit, but look at Intel down 3% and AMD down, quite a bit. If we look at just the overall bigger picture of all these names, even Amazon, Tesla, Square, Adobe, PayPal, they're all down quite significantly. Apple included. With the look at the green name, we've got Nvidia. That's one of the few names there that's up. So when we look at Nvidia here and we start checking out the chart in this case, one thing about this chart is when you start looking at it and checking it out, we still are continuing to move higher. But remember, don't put all your eggs in a single basket. At any point, this stock could go down in the same way that AMD right now, it's pulling down quite heavy. Even looking at Microsoft, we had a couple of up days and now, they're pulling it, right? A few up days and now they're pulling that rug and dumping a lot of shares for that little bit of up move. So they're pressing a lot of stuff. So when I start looking at these kinds of things, it starts to get a little bit concerning because then that means we could have a further move down in the market space. So looking at all of these things with Nvidia, yes, the earnings are popping higher, pushing that stock to go higher. We've got a lot of good reports regarding it. But, this also reminds me of back in the day when you look at Netflix. It all was good for many years. Look, for a good long run up. That stock also from around 270 got into 700. Does that sound familiar? 270 to about 700. Look at Nvidia here. 110 to 500. You could say relatively close, right? And then you just have a couple of things where it's priced for perfection or something's out of whack, and it takes that stock and it takes out a lot of gains. It brings it back almost 5 years worth. That's the crazy part. So right now that, Netflix is coming back and has come back because that was overdone. But when you start looking at it relatively speaking, now you're kind of in this line. So Nvidia, I think it's doing well and it continues to do well. And by the looks of it, it's holding up well. And that's good news. There's probably a lot of short squeezes that are also happening right now. So when we're looking at it, there's a lot of good higher prices right now that are happening and pushing that stock higher. But the fact is yeah, are we stretched? Sure. Is the trend up? Yes. But be mindful. Don't put everything in one basket. So that's the thing. Anyway, when we look at just overall the news and look at what's going on with Nvidia, it did jump. It jumped quite a bit, and they're looking for sales to jump as well. So as we start pulling up, open these tabs up, there's a ton of things regarding the news report that you could say, hey, you know what? It's pushing that stock higher. Set record high earnings forecast, crush expectations, and all these numbers. Yeah, they're pressing that stock higher. At the end of the day, though, what really counts is more or less how investors are behaving. Are they still putting their money into it? So those numbers kind of give a reason for a lot of people, but it also means, well, do you have enough money on the sidelines to invest? It's not just about what the company's doing. It's also about how much money we have on the sidelines that we're looking to push and invest into that company or into that space. So although this helps, and this kind of helps people think, yeah, that makes sense logically and decision-wise, but at the end of the day, do you have the extra capital to start pushing things in here? Or are the shorts buying things back? Is the news important enough to where they say, oh, you know what, I got to buy my shares because it's too high? I will say after hours, this thing did hit some high levels, I think in the 505 level or so. So when we look at that, but in the high open 502.66, so it was pretty significant. But throughout the day, you could see we opened significantly higher, and then that stock just kind of sold off. We tried to get a little bounce here. Now, in retrospect, you could say we almost filled the gap, or we kind of did fill the gap, but not quite yet. And 490 seems to be a line in the sand. It's struggling to get above that for today. But overall, I mean, the stock's a powerhouse and still continues to do quite well. So I wouldn't be too crazy or scared of it. But you know, when things get into those levels, a normal pullback could happen just in the same way that we had back here. It's pretty normal. It's healthy. And you had a 15% pullback, 75 points. And for a stock this big, that's not a lot. And now when you get into the 500 level, a 100-point pullback, it's not going to be a lot. So a 500 going to 400, it's not going to be a big deal. Same thing when you look at Tesla. You know, you're up at 300s, and now you were down at 200s. So you had that pullback from here to here. It's not that significant. It's just kind of normal pulling back from the lows way back here from May to all the way over here. You've got a move from about 150 all the way to the level of about 300, and then halfway you're pulling back. So it's a normal 50% retracement. If you look at a Fibonacci levels, I don't know if you guys do or not, there's that 61.8% retracement. That's kind of right in line in that zone or level. So that's something that's also kind of interesting on these pullbacks. So when you look at Nvidia on the run that it's had, man, a 50% pullback, if you even just take the upper range here to where we are now, a 50% pullback could, or 61% could yield it right back into this level of 290, 280. That kind of is right there, 279. That puts it right back to the swing point of that level. That's kind of interesting. And a 50% pullback puts it at 322-ish, right near the top of the levels here in 2021. So if that happens, you do have some people that'll probably get back in, but that would still be normal and natural. Anyway, where do I think this thing's going to go? Who the heck knows? I have no idea. But my personal opinion is, so far, the trend, it's going to continue with this trend. This is what we've got going on. You've still got the volume in there. That's my statistical probability. But at any point, this thing could roll over very quickly, 100 points, just like it did here, and you know, even fill the gaps back there. So that's where I would be a little bit more cautious and scary, and that's where things could be a nightmare for a lot of people, especially if they're pulling in everything right there. Other than that, stock looks good, looks healthy. I mean, the earnings are good for now, no problems, and I think for a couple months you should be fine. But at any given point, a 100-point pullback on this is, you know, is very fine, normal, and not an issue. So if you've only got a $1 or $2 stop on a stock like this, you're kidding yourself. So be very careful, because these things can move and wiggle. And when you look at Nvidia, just the expected move on, let's say, a 15-day option, you got a 36-point move or a 50-point move without a problem in the next 30 days. So 50-point move can easily happen at any given point if you're trading this thing even for a month. So anyway, I hope that helps, gives you a little insight. Truly appreciate you joining me. Feel free to check out the Traders Fly website if you want to learn a little bit more about trading options, and hit some of these other videos so you can continue to learn, evolve, and expand your knowledge. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.